Zoom meeting. This won't work on me anymore. I don't know. The microphone won't work here. None of this shit works anymore for me. Used to work. I don't think my hard drive works anymore. So you have to watch the shrimp. All right, I'm really busy now, so I'll take care of myself later. I just need to concentrate here. I cannot get into the Zoom. The fucking hard drive is no more good. what the hell are you doing?
Hey Hazel, how you doing?
Oh my God, I've had the damnedest time getting in here. I'm glad I'm finally in here.
And Karen, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Nanette?
Good. Karen is the landscape architect for Remington and Vernick.
That's correct.
Right.
Excellent.
So she helped us on our last tree project, and hopefully she'll be able to help us again this time around.
I think Ryan is joining us also.
Yeah, he said he would be here,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple other members will pop in soon.
Okay.
Dick Colby cannot be here. He's traveling to Europe for his holiday. And
Did you see the mayor said she doesn't feel good?
yes, and the mayor also sent an email saying she was sick. I hope she's all right. Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm okay, Nanette. How are you doing?
Good. Glad you can make it.
Thank you. Good to be here. Me too.
Do you know if Jody will be here, Karen?
You know, I'm not sure.
Okay. She attends sometimes.
Mm.
She's doing 10 other things. She's got kids crying and probably
Aw.
trying to cook dinner, you know.
Nanette, do you need volunteers for the upcoming handout?
Yeah, absolutely. It's on the agenda here. I wanted to do it tomorrow,
Okay,
you know, because it'll be busy shopping.
sure.
I would think, you know, pre-Thanksgiving, people will be shopping at, you know, dinner time. I thought
Yeah.
that would be a good time to give them away.
Sure.
So if you want to help out, I might not have a car tomorrow. My son had to return his rental. He had a little accident, and
Uh-oh.
his car's in Cornell's getting fixed. And
I just got mine back from there.
It's been there 30 days.
Oh, has it? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, so his rental ran out and they won't pay for it anymore.
Oh,
So he's going to be using my car for a couple of days. Hopefully it'll be done by Monday.
okay.
But I'll have
Well,
to
if you need a
walk
ride,
in.
I'd
You might, yeah, if you're going to do it, then maybe you could stop by and pick me up,
be happy to.
because the boxes are a little bit cumbersome.
Sure. Sure.
And I think I have 2 boxes of bags to give away and some literature and stuff. So that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah.
Hazel, you want to come?
What time are you going to be there, Nan?
I think 4 o'clock is the best time to go because that's when it's really busy.
You know what? I got a physical therapy at 3:30. I'll stop by when I'm done there.
Okay.
It's in
It's not a
Galloway,
big-
so I can
Yeah,
stop
well,
by.
you were there last time, so you know it's not a big deal. If hopefully
I
it
know,
won't be
but I
too
love
cold.
doing that.
It's really cold out today, but I think it's supposed to warm up tomorrow.
Good.
Hopefully it won't be as cold.
Excuse me, Nanette.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. I just want to know, were you just talking about the giveaway at the Inklingos?
Yes.
Okay,
You
and
wanna
that's at
come?
4 o'clock on Wednesday?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, I could make it.
Oh, good. Great.
Okay.
Nanette, what time do you want me to pick you up?
4 o'clock, you're 5
Okay.
of,
All right.
it's not that far.
No, it's not. It isn't. What's your house number again?
349 Buffalo.
Okay.
I have the house with the ivy fence.
All right.
Who's on the iPhone?
That's
Can't
me.
see.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can
It could
see
be
you.
me,
Who is it?
Erin Sharp,
Oh, hi, Aaron. How are
at
you?
Cedar Creek. It's a new phone, and I guess I haven't set up Zoom on it yet.
What are you, in the car?
Yeah, my son's at hockey practice, chilling at hockey
Okay.
practice.
And Ryan, I thought I saw him pop in. Hey, Ryan. He's on mute. All right, well, let's get started. It's, hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, my connection keeps freezing, so
All right.
if I don't answer,
Uh,
that's why.
All right. Well, let's get started. We have 2 special people here tonight. Ryan McGowan's the city engineer, and Karen Twizzler is the landscape architect for Remington and Vernick. And we put them to the top of the agenda so they could get on with their night. But we need to talk about the 2 tree grants that we got and how we can help, how they can help us get them accomplished. I sent, I guess I sent it to you too, Ryan. I sent Karen a whole bunch of stuff today that I extracted from the grant applications, trying to give an idea of what our plan is. And so Karen, did you get that?
I did, and I actually forwarded it to Ryan.
Oh, good. Okay. So we got 2 grants. The first grant was an Atlantic City Electric Sustainability Grant, and we had asked for $2,000, but they only give grants in allotments of $5,000. So we had to accept $5,000 instead of 2.
Oh, no, not that.
A good problem to have.
Which
Yeah,
will
okay.
help us a lot. I estimated the cost of the project would be about $2,500. The idea is to label the trees in Lincoln Park, which some of them are really, really tall and beautiful trees. And we had Dick Colby go out there and identify the trees. And he gave me a really crude overlay of the map that Karen had done when we planted the trees in Lincoln Park a couple of years ago. So I need Karen to positively identify those trees. And the idea would be to get signage made where we will identify each tree species in the park. The project includes doing a brochure with make a little bit about each tree species and where they would be ideal to plant. So homeowners in town can go over there, look at the trees. We plan to do a tour of the park and a Arbor Day planting on April. I don't know what date it is this year. It's the last Friday in April. So that's when the project will be finished. But to start with, we need to identify the trees, and then I can put together a brochure and get the information to a sign maker to make the signs. And that's number 1. And so if whatever overages we have in that grant, we can use to supplement the tree planting grant that we got, the Urban and Community Forestry grant. That was a $30,000 grant that we applied for, and it's the second time we received that grant. Karen helped us when we had our first grant. I guess that was in 2015, 16, somewhere around there. And the goal for that grant was to replace 109 trees that were lost in the derecho. That we had to cut all these trees down, and it cost, I think, $30,000 for the city to do that, to get rid of the trees. So we did that project. It was really hard for Jody, and which is why she would like Ryan and Karen to help out a little bit more. She was pulling her hair out because some of the trees died, and we had to have the contractor come back and replace them. We planted trees in Lincoln Park at, I think, the Sprague School. We planted a couple at Key Rec, and we planted a row of trees on New York Avenue going into Cedar Creek High School, and at the back of Cedar Creek High School around the athletic fields where it had been clear cut. So the trees are all doing really good. The contractor did come back and replace them, and hopefully they'll survive. I think one is dead in Lincoln Park towards Gordon Dahl Way that we could replace with this grant. Now this round, we want to replace the trees that were lost when the city did road projects. You know, when the prior council was taking all the trees down and not replacing them. And of course, I got kind of crazy about that because we need our trees. And the new council that we have is supportive of only taking down the trees that are bad or need to be taken down, and they're amicable to replacing them. So that's what we're going to try to catch up with what we lost. And then hopefully in the future, we won't lose as many. And maybe after this grant is completed, we could apply again because they seem to like the way we're doing things.
Okay, we
So-
started using tree plates for ones that were not. We started using the tree plates along the road edge for the ones that were not too overgrown.
Yeah, explain what that is.
Sure. So normally you have a concrete curb, which is 6 to 8 inches wide, that runs along the edge of the road. Helps set the edge of the road, elevate the the edge, and sort of separate the sidewalk from the road. Also helps
Oh
dear.
Yeah.
with drainage. So as trees push concrete out of the way, years ago, we kind of figured section
Ryan, we're losing you.
where the
Yeah. Oh, we're losing Ryan. All right. So maybe when he gets back on, I don't know how
Well,
he's.
basically, instead of a concrete curb, there's a thin piece of heavy duty metal that's used to hold the curb in place. So
Mhm.
it allows the tree a little bit more room to grow. We lost you for a little bit there, Ryan.
yeah, Zoom decided it needed to update right now. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. It sounded like Karen was in the middle of it, so have at it. Go for it.
I wanted to pick up where you left off if we were going to have some downtime.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just basically instead of the concrete curb, there's a piece of metal that's heavy duty, but fairly thin that doesn't take up as much space as a concrete curb. And that gives the tree a little bit more room to grow while still providing that protection from vehicular traffic and
So does
snowplows.
this thing go around the entire root ball, or is it
No.
just along the curb line?
Just on
Yeah,
the
so-
street side for existing trees.
I got you.
Yeah, you leave out a section of curb, and instead you put the tree plate across and you tie it into the curb on both sides. So it has the stability of the curb on both sides. And we found that as the roots grow, you know, with concrete curb, it just pushes it out of the way. With the metal, it tends to grow around it. So you don't get that same disruption of the streets and the curb line and everything.
So how expensive is it to do that?
Most contractors installed at the same unit price as the curb per linear foot. So it's no additional cost. You were going to put curb there anyway.
So that'll be for when the city does their streetscapes.
We've
Right.
already done it on Chicago Avenue.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not going to be doing that when we plant trees, will we?
No, that's only when you're redoing curbs in the street and everything.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about how we're going to accomplish this project. And the first thing I wanted to do was come up with a limited list of approved trees. And I'm going to need Karen to help with that because we want something that's deep rooted and it's not going to, you know, they're all going to lift the sidewalks eventually, but
Mhm.
something that, you know, stays compact or likes to go down, something that'll provide color in the fall or spring flowers, whatever. And it's something that's really going to make a lot of shade for the sidewalks, because we have very wide governor strips. Some of them are 6 feet wide, where, you know, some towns, they only have 2 feet. So we do have room for the trees. So if we could first come up with an approved tree list, and then we want to contact by letter or postcard or something like that, all the residents on the streets that were affected. I think it's the 500 block of Cincinnati, the 600 block of Chicago, 100 block of Boston, 200 block of San Francisco, and the 1 and 200 blocks of London. We also have a couple male ginkgos that need to be replaced on Philadelphia Avenue. I think there's 1 or 2 that died. And so we want to, you know, contact all the homeowners in those areas and ask them if they want a tree in front of their house. Some of the questions I think we need to get answers to are, how close is their water source? Because we're going to ask them to be responsible for tree maintenance over 2 years. And if there's a stump there already, I don't think we should be removing the stumps or digging them out. If they want to clear it out, it's up to them, but we need to know that information ahead of time. And then once they send us back that, yeah, I want a tree in front of my house, we, you know, give them the list and say, pick what you want. And we, like, I mean, the volunteers can do this. I don't think the engineers have to come out for that, but to eyeball the site and say, you know, you're not going to be able to fit 2 trees in here. You can have 1 tree, and that we'll do that legwork. And then one of the other things we were going to do is the tree planting won't be until next fall, the 2022. So we have time to converse with them and get everything ironed out. And what else did I want to?
Nanette, excuse me, I'm sorry, can you briefly explain what a governor strip is?
It's the strip of grass near the curb,
Okay.
between the sidewalk and the curb line.
Park strip is another term.
What they call, and
The park strip.
Colby calls it the verge.
Yeah, there you go.
So I've heard it called, I called it the governor strip because that's what it was when they were talking about trees and on the island, they call it the governor strip. And that was quite controversial. So we will, and then have a meeting, like a meeting somewhere, maybe in the summertime, with all the residents who are getting trees to let them know how to maintain their tree, proper planting, proper mulching, how to water it. I was thinking if the funding allows, we could get the watering bags that they could put around the tree, that it makes it easy to water the tree, where you just fill it up once a week and it'll slowly drip into the tree roots. So, and then what else do we have to do with this? These are all the things that we, you know, I was thinking of I put into the grant application.
So Nanette, just to summarize, the work that you need from Ryan and I is you're looking for a proposal for these
Yes.
2 separate projects. And the first project is just for us to go out and identify the trees at Lincoln Park.
Right.
That's the extent that you need us to work on that project.
Yes.
And then for the second project, you're going to need us to create a street tree list.
Yes.
I'm assuming that you want plans for those 8 blocks.
Yeah, and you had done some kind of a planting plan
Yeah.
in your last application.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that. I'm sure the grant, the Forestry Service is going to want to see that before the project moves
Sure.
forward.
And
So we
then
need
you're
that done.
thinking kind of some maintenance recommendations,
Yes,
specifications.
yes. Well, that's kind of, I mean, that's available easily through the Arbor Day Foundation and all that. I have
Okay.
tons of literature on tree care and things like that. If you have additional resources that you could
Okay.
share, that would be
Yeah.
good.
I'm also on the Collingswood Shade Tree Advisory Board. So I'm familiar with working with that outfit. And then I guess the only other thing, do you need like a resident tree request form?
Do you have one that you could share?
Probably.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
started to devise one, but I'm gonna have to go to City Hall and use their computers to do it because they have that Adobe suite, and I used to have it. I don't have it anymore, and it's so expensive. I don't want to buy it.
You're
But
thinking like a PDF that you could fill in?
a fill-in PDF, and yeah, because we could just print that out and people could fill it in if they don't have a computer. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be the best thing. And Jody was really concerned about guarantees. In the last
Sure.
grant, we had the contractor guarantee the 2-year maintenance period. That
Yes.
now that the homeowner's involved, she was concerned, well, who are we going to get to guarantee the trees? Is it going to be the contractor? What happens if the tree dies and, you know, the homeowner doesn't water it? You know,
So it
and
has
dies.
been
What do we do
my
then? It's not-
experience that the contractor's still on the hook for the trees, even if the homeowner doesn't water them. Sadly, it's easier for them to say, hey, I'm just going to accept that a certain percentage of trees are going to die,
Mhm.
rather than go out there with a watering truck every week to make sure that the trees are watered. All of these trees are going to be planted in the curb strip, correct? Nothing on private property?
Nothing on private property.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, then I think that 2-year guarantee is pretty standard. We can go with that.
Okay. All right, that was the big concern that Jody had. And
Sure.
then the tree project itself, I guess we need a bid specs to send to a contractor or to share with a contractor so that they could come up with their price and so forth. So I
Mhm.
guess that's part of what you're going to be doing.
Yep.
And then inspections during the work. I know that the Forestry Service comes out and inspects afterwards. I don't know if they show up when the trees are delivered or not, but yeah, I know they have strict guidelines on how the trees should be handled.
I think it depends on how soon we can reach out to them and let them know. Ideally, I would imagine that they would like to be there when the trees arrive. I've worked on projects with them in the past where it really varies depending on the person. And with this whole crazy COVID thing going on, I don't even know if they're meeting out in the field. A lot of state workers are still at home.
How about the contractor who did the last project? I know Jody said she was going to reach out to him. We feel he did a decent job.
So you would want him to bid on the job again?
I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, and given the price point where you're at, I mean, we could do it as a quote solicitation or a bid, depending on what the funding source prefers, because anything under 40,000, because Jody's a QPA.
Yeah, no, we could do the easy way.
Yeah.
Just contact a couple contractors and ask them to bid on it, that type of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah, we could do that. And then the actual planting at Ryan with the street curbs and all that stuff, is that something you have to look at everything to make sure the site is okay?
So generally speaking, if a homeowner was coming in, technically something like this would require a street opening permit. Obviously, the city's doing it, so we're not going to do that. I don't think it's going to make sense to have somebody watch the contractor install trees full time. I think it's just going to be cost prohibitive. But it might make sense for us to be there, you know, when he first gets started, making sure that they are doing the right thing off the get-go, and then maybe a couple spot inspections to keep them honest. But yeah, I mean, for us to sit there the whole time we're installing 100 some trees, I don't think it's going to make financial sense.
No, but I'm concerned about those blocks, like if there's any pipes in the ground or they're coming out, you know, because some people have those drainage pipes that come from the house to the street.
Yeah, a lot of them we installed like a little PVC manifold that's collects all the roof drains and stuff along the streets. But I can go back and figure out which streets have them and which don't. I mean, generally
We'd need-
speaking, go ahead.
We would need a utility mark out as well.
Right.
Yeah, they're not gonna, those pipes are not gonna show up on a
Show
utility.
up. Yeah.
They're ones that the city installed, and it's, just city stormwater infrastructure, so. But yeah,
Okay.
for the most part, we're lucky in this city in that most of the utilities are in the back.
Yeah, that's why we need nice, I was talking to Kim about it. It's like, we could take big trees that get really tall on our main streets because, we have no utility lines there. And
Yep.
that was the other thing, Karen, that in the tree list,
Mhm.
yeah, I haven't inspected every street that is eligible at the start. But we need understory trees where, they're shorter, they won't
Yep.
get as big, maybe broken out into like two or three different categories, small, medium,
Okay.
and large trees, that type
Sure.
of thing.
Yeah,
How
so-
many trees total are you thinking?
We put in for 100.
No,
which
no,
is
I mean,
about how
for your
many we
tree
did
list.
last time? Huh?
For your tree list.
Oh, I don't know. We need a nice variety because we have too many of the same species and they're really coming to the end of their lifespan.
Maybe 20-ish?
No, not that many. Maybe a dozen.
Okay. So the only thing I want to caution you with that is because of COVID, a lot of homeowners have been taking an interest in landscaping their yards.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the nurseries are seeing that there's a deficit in supply. So I want to make sure that whatever trees we specify, these are things that are readily available and you can
Mhm.
get. I don't want to promise someone, oh, I can give you tree X when all I have is tree Y.
Yeah, well, we'll keep in contact with them if there's a problem getting a tree. We
Okay.
should, if we get this thing started after the holidays, we should know by the summer who's getting what tree. And
Yep.
we should be able to contact the supplier and find out if they have them by then and give them a second choice. Maybe we could rank them first choice, second choice on the form. And give them a second choice. Like if we can't fill the order, we'll try something different. But I think everything should be site specific to, like my house, I had 2 maple trees and both of them are gone. So I personally would like to have 2 trees replaced. And I have an idea of what I would like,
Mhm.
but if it's not available, I don't know. I like willow oaks because they're kind of narrow and they'll grow tall and they have tiny leaves. But I rake 3 times at least in the fall. I have no trees. It's all my neighbors' leaves that I
Wow.
rake. So, and both my neighbors have they're beautiful trees, the sycamore trees. And they are messy. They start losing their leaves in August.
August.
And,
Yeah.
they don't, like, there's still some leaves on the one tree next to me. So they take a long time to drop their leaves. So like, they're the kind of things that I'm sure you can think of that
Sure.
we should say, well, let's stay away from sycamore trees, or let's, try something else instead, So
I'm going to recommend that we start with the Pinelands native species list.
Yep.
Given where we are, and then we'll pare down from there. Does that make sense?
somebody told me that maple trees are not natives. Is that true?
I have not heard that. I guess it depends
Yeah.
on the type of maple.
Yeah, okay, because somebody said, oh, yeah, maple trees aren't native trees, and because we were touting that we want native trees. And they're like,
Yeah.
"That's not a
I
native
will
tree."
say they're kind of overplanted, the maples. There's some Pinelands natives that are great trees, but maybe not the best street trees.
Mhm.
And as we're finding, like with spotted lanternfly, sometimes the pests and diseases that we're seeing are coming from overseas, and our native species have no tolerance.
All right, well, I don't think
So-
any of our trees do they?
Biodiversity is key.
Yeah. All right, so what else? Are there any other things that you guys know that I haven't thought of? Or are there any questions from our members about it? We have a master gardener here.
Cool.
Are you a master gardener too? I
Who,
was talking
me?
about Kim, yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh,
No.
Kim is.
I
Kim is
did.
a master gardener.
I did take the course. It's been a while. I'm no longer a I was certified, but I'm no longer a master gardener because I didn't keep it up. But I did have a couple of questions. Nanette, you were saying as far as the number of trees in the front of someone's home, couldn't you just figure it out by the length of how many lots someone has? By the number
Yeah,
of trees?
yeah, but there might be a stump there and
Oh.
you know what I mean? They can only fit one. We want to give them, 1 or 2 trees tops. And then once we go through all these streets and, we still have a lot more trees to plant, then we could open it up to the community, to people like me or you, or, that maybe you didn't have a road project in front of your house. But I think we have to start with those people. And once we know, then, maybe by March or April, we can open it up to the general community and do the same process.
Yeah, I mean, you could set a minimum to say, for the first 40 feet of frontage, you can get 1 tree. After you get, if you have more than 40 feet, you could qualify for up to 2.
Yeah,
like that.
right.
And the other thing I wanted to add, Karen, I know you said that the maples were overplanted. I was just looking at different maples. And I was looking at a celebrity maple,
Mhm.
and they were supposed to have been it's a Freeman maple, which is a cross between a silver and a red maple.
Mhm.
And they made celebrity is a male version, so they don't have the seeds.
Correct.
So I was just wondering if that would even be a consideration. The only
Sure.
thing that I saw a downside was it's supposed to be from the ground up, it's supposed to be 5 foot. So that's the only downside, but I thought that they were very tolerant of harsh wind and the ice.
Yep.
And I thought they were supposed to be a pretty sturdy tree, and they're very colorful.
Mhm.
And
That was the
They're-
celebration you said?
the celebration, yeah.
Okay.
And they were supposed to be 45 foot tall and 20 foot wide. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Erin, how the trees doing at the school?
I was just trying to picture my drive in every single morning and my drive out. So they must be fine because nothing is sticking out of my head as, oh, that one's not there. So they must
Well,
be okay.
we
Trying to
had
picture
planted
it.
a lot of, what are they called? Red buds. And the first round of red buds, they died. None of
Didn't
them
do so
lived.
well.
So I think they came back and replaced them with a different variety of red bud. So,
Yes.
I mean, I never go over there. So I did go there this spring just to check them out to see if they were just starting to bud. And so I never got to see them in full bloom. So do you remember seeing pink
Well, I'm going to pay
flowers?
attention tomorrow morning.
Left.
They were a light pink. They weren't vibrant pink. They were light.
Yeah, I think after a couple of years when they get comfortable where they are, they might really sparkle, but and that's a native New Jersey tree, and there's not that many of them in I don't know of any of them in Egg Harbor City. You see sometimes along the highway, there's 1 or 2 in the woods, but I don't see anybody planting red buds, and I absolutely love them. But
have a
if they're going to be
forest
difficult, I don't want to have anything to do with them. We want easy this time around. What was that, Kim?
I have a forest pansy red bud.
Do you?
Yeah, it's red, very red at the beginning of the season.
They're
And
pretty.
mine's doing very well. I've had it for a while.
And people are really hot for what's the tree that turns like in August, it blooms real bright colors.
Crepe myrtle?
Yes. And I don't see them as street trees. What do you think,
Right.
Karen?
They're hard to find single trunked, which is what you would want for a street tree.
Right.
They're more commonly sold multi-trunked.
Mhm.
They've just come out with a lot of breeding on crepe myrtle, and they do have some cultivars that will get to be about 20 feet tall, which is nice, if you can find them. But it's not super easily available.
Yeah, I don't think they're good for street trees, though. I think we want stalks with big leaves at the top, lots of shade.
Yep.
So anything else that you guys can offer on our plan before we get started on it? So I don't want to have pitfalls I mean, Karen, you looked at all that information I sent you.
Yeah, it's very thorough. I think we should be able to put a proposal together.
Okay,
I'll talk to Ryan about that maybe tomorrow or early next week, depending on his holiday plans.
okay.
I should
All
be.
right, Karen.
Okay.
Ryan, I'm going to move on to the next group of things on the agenda, but I think you should stick around for that because there's one thing on here that I think you might be interested in.
All right, I can do that. I'm gonna have to relocate to our kitchen, but I'll do that.
All right. All right, so we'll
If I
get
drop out,
working.
I'll be back.
We'll be working with Remington and Vernick. Jody will take it from here and
Super.
get your proposal, and I don't know what kind of agreements you signed for getting paid and all, but the fall grant, the $30,000 grant, it's 7% for professional fees, and the other grant, again, whatever's left over. So I think we might have around $4,000 to spend for your services.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
The next thing on the agenda is the Sustainable Jersey grant cycle. We have 2 opportunities for grants that are due early in the new year. And the first grant is a big one, we're eligible for up to $25,000 to, are you listening, Ryan? $25,000 to do
I'm still here.
a community energy planning, which from what I can gather from the information sent out, it's to create an energy plan for the entire city, looking at, I guess, buildings, usage, the community, streetlights. It's wide open on what you could include in there. And I thought it might be good to have like a 5 or a 10-year plan for the city to address energy issues and to get things accomplished. So I wanted to ask Ryan, do you know anything about this grant? It just came out the other day.
I was gonna say I saw that it exists, but to be honest, I haven't read through it yet. Yeah, I mean, I know there's a couple of things that are sort of low-hanging fruit for the city. We looked at the streetlights thing a couple of years ago, and with a pretty sizable upfront expenditure, there was like a 5 or 6 year payback period, and then you would save like $80,000 a year or something on streetlights through the lease lighting program, because you're paying, I don't know, I think it's like $6 or $7 per light for high pressure sodiums, and switching over to LED, you pay like $1, and that's per month per light. You got 1,000 lights or whatever it is. So we ran the numbers, like I said, a couple of years ago, and you'd have to spend 100 and some thousand, 130,000, whatever it was up front, but it would pay itself back pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, stuff like that are things that you can incorporate into that plan.
Right.
How to save energy and how to save money, frankly.
Right. And then I understand the city hall needs a chiller or something.
Yeah, their HVAC facilities are all sort of old and outdated at this point. So yeah, that would be on the list. I'm sure all the other facilities are similar but smaller in scale.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could look at things like trying to identify a location for a community solar project or something like that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that would be great. Colby will be glad to hear you say that.
Well, we wanted to try to incorporate that when we did the solar lease for the city for the remote net metering. But given the restrictions on the former SREC program or TREC program rather, that was going to phase out. It wasn't going to be possible to incorporate a community solar and like hybrid project and meet the deadline. We barely got in as it was.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know,
with all this money coming out for infrastructure, I'm hoping that the city's positioning itself now to tackle some of these issues, because it could save money and, you know, help the environment too at the same time.
yep, hard to argue with that.
So, and then the other grant is our regular Sustainable Jersey grant cycle. At this time, it's from, they have 2 grant cycles a year. One's from PSENG and the other one's from, I forget. Anyway, they're offering $10,000, $20,000 and $2,000 grants. We apply for a $2,000 grant every year for the green team operations, and we haven't gotten it for the last couple of years. But we have been successful with the larger grants. And this time I'm looking at improving public engagement in municipal government. That's the action item that Sustainable Jersey has in its list of actions that we can do. And my thought is to apply for the $10,000 or $20,000 grant to get that city hall council chambers equipped with proper equipment, microphones, things like that. That, you know, it's been years and years and years. They did have mics back in the 90s, and they lasted like 2 years and they all broke. And then they upgraded because of the courts, and they had to buy some equipment for the courts, but we don't have the courts anymore. So we really do need to have more access to the meetings since COVID, and people go into meetings on Zoom. I think that every meeting should be on Zoom in addition to being in person. That's my opinion. But we really need to educate. We have no newspaper here. We have nothing to communicate with our citizens. So I think if we could get that room set up so that it's more conducive to doing Zoom meetings with maybe an overhead projector or something like that, where they, like if they had a PowerPoint, they could project it onto the wall or whatever. I don't know, but I talked to Jody about it and she thought it was a good idea. So that's my idea for that PSENG grant. And it's due February 11th. So we could send it up the flagpole. I, would have to get approval of city council to apply for the grant in the first place, but they seem to be wanting to do more, hear more from the public lately. So I don't know. What do you think? What's everybody think? No
I think
comments?
it's a good
I think,
idea.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's a very good idea, Nanette.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you can't really understand anyone for long periods of time during the council. You'll miss a lot
Yeah,
when you're on Zoom, and I think that's very unfortunate. And I
especially
think
Ryan, because he's
Yeah.
looking at the council instead of the camera,
yeah.
and I
Well,
see
it's
his head
hard.
moving.
It's hard the way it's set up. So like
Yeah,
you were
really
saying,
right in the middle.
either overhead or something or other. There has to be a way to rectify
Yeah.
that, and then if you get good equipment also.
Well,
That
The
Agree.
broadcasting from the council chambers is happening over like a $75 webcam. So it's not like it's,
Wow.
it's literally just a webcam mounted on top of a laptop. So
Yeah, but
it's
it's
better in
embarrassing
council chambers
now.
than it is broadcasting out. So, up until recently, it wasn't really a problem. Meg had the laptop and they were still using that microphone system to record the audio when they were doing it that way. And then I guess they would combine that with the video. But yeah, I mean, as far as an interactive setting, it's not, technologically it's way behind. Let's put it that way.
Have you
Yeah.
done any projects like that for any other municipalities?
We have, I believe. I've not personally been involved in any, but I can think of a couple offhand that I know we upgraded and added, high fidelity setups. In
Where,
fact,
do you remember?
I was going to say, I think that when we redid Margate's City Hall, well, their old City Hall now, Washington Avenue, I think when we redid that, we added a bunch of features for both presentations in and video out. But that was still before now. I don't think anyone envisioned, broadcasting and having full public meetings over the web, regularly. That just wasn't really in anyone's purview, I don't think. So the last couple of years have changed everyone's perspective on what's expected from council chambers and how meetings are going to be conducted,
Yeah, well, Margate's is top notch.
It probably
Probably
wasn't.
cost a pretty penny.
Yeah. I mean, we fit within the budget. When you have the budget,
Yeah, they got a big budget.
that doesn't hurt. Yeah.
All right, so we're all good with that, then going with that action item. There are other actions that would need to be done besides buying the equipment and installing it, and that is, how to, set up your agendas, where to publish them. There's things like that I'll have to talk to Meg about, and because she would be the one to change things at City Hall, I guess, but we'll work on that. What else is on here that I need Ryan for? If we go down to the agenda, incomplete action, planned actions, the municipal initiative, energy initiatives, the solar project at Gordon Dahl Way. That's your project, Ryan. There needs to be, we need to have it, the information that you have filled out on this Sustainable Jersey application website.
Okay.
Have you ever been through that?
I've not had to fill out any information on the site, but if you want to send me a link and some instructions.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because that is, if you look at our actions that we had planned to do this year, some of them got done and others didn't. Regarding we did get our bronze certification recently with 180 points, when 150 were required. But Jody just submitted more information the other day, so we might have like 190 or 200 points. So we're good for 3 years. The grant cycle, the certification cycle is good for 3 years. But as in the past, we'd always wait until the last minute and have to try to retrieve all this information and put it up on this website to get credits, the points. We're always talking about points. And I vow I am not going to do that anymore. When a project is done, we're going to fill out our sections in the grant application and in the certification application as we go. And then you just mark them complete. And then when it's time to submit for a new certification, the Sustainable Jersey people would go through and check everything. So we need Ryan to do the solar project. When do you expect that to be constructed?
So I just got some feedback from them the other day. They're still trying to, get all the paperwork sorted out. But it has to be constructed. I think it's before the end of August next summer.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there's a timing restriction for the T-Rex, and that's really what makes the financials work. So.
And what's that energy going to be used for?
So we qualified for a program that Atlantic City Electric didn't want to acknowledge existed yet, but we kind of forced their hand. The state passed a law that required utilities to allow for what's called remote net metering. So normally what would happen is you would have a net metered facility where you would have your utility meter, and when you're generating, it would run backwards, and when you're using it, it would run forwards, and you just got billed for the net. But it always had to be on the same property. It couldn't even be across the street. It had to be on the property that the usage was occurring. So the state said, well, that's helpful, but that doesn't work everywhere. You can't, not every building can take solar panels. Some lots are too tight, some are shaded. And then there are other parcels that are ideal, but there's no usage there. So they developed what's called remote net metering. So now you can have a remote site that hosts your solar panels, but you can net meter facilities and tie the two together. So we are the proposal is to remote net meter at least 4 of the city's facilities, probably more, where the solar panels will be canopies over the parking lot at the transit station, the transit hub. And then it will offset usage at the city's facilities all throughout town.
So like at the library and at City Hall and
Public Works Garage and numerous others, yes.
What does the energy actually go to those locations, or is it just the billing thing?
Yeah, it's the utility grid. When you send electricity out, you send it to the grid. So it's sort of going wherever it's needed. It's not like there's a direct connection to those facilities. It's just net meter. You put it into the system, you take it out of the system, you pay the net difference between what you generated and what you used.
And are we going to own those, or are they going to be power purchase agreement?
It's a 15-year PPA. So we will pay a fixed rate until the end of that 15-year period, and then it will be turned over to the city.
Oh, that's
And
good.
the city has the option at that point to, let's say they're a colossal failure and they're falling apart. We can tell the contractor, you know what, just get these out of here and restore the area. Or we can just take them and accept them wholesale, and now they're ours.
And what's the guarantee on them?
I think it's either a 25 or 30-year panel life.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, 15 years is the max you can do for a PPA. So we're doing that with all schools, municipalities, and everything.
So could you explain what a community solar would be, or like any ideas of where it could go, or?
Well, so frankly, we could use the other half of the transit hub parking lot because we're only using about half of it for the promote net metering project. So that's one possibility. Another would be, I mean, frankly, any vacant land that the city owns that's not encumbered by wetlands, that's adjacent to the utility grid. So I've had a couple of people say like, oh, what about the old airport site out by the lake? I'm like, well, I doubt that there's capacity in the existing electrical system out there to accept a connection. I mean, we can look, but it probably isn't going to happen. You know, there may be a couple other lots. There's a couple open lots, I want to say like along Atlantic Avenue, a couple like sporadic locations in town that it might work out. So,
and that would be for the community to share that benefit.
Correct.
Right?
Another option, it's more expensive, but frankly, it's what we're doing in the transit hub, would be canopies. We could put canopies over like the library parking lot, you know, behind the library.
Yeah,
You could put them over. You could put them at City Hall, but then you'd probably have to take down some of the trees, you know, along the parking lot there. So that's, you know, a less desirable area. But
Do they have to be centrally located?
for community solar, they do not.
Because there's a lot of open space out by the garage.
The Public Works Garage?
Uh-huh.
So a lot of that cleared territory is actually wetlands and wetlands buffers. That's why it's just sitting there with nothing happening. But it's possible sometimes Pinelands is a little more flexible with solar and wetlands buffers that are already cleared, especially in areas that haven't revegetated. So, you know, it's something we can ask about, but it'd be a little more complicated, at least bureaucratically.
Okay.
Bureaucratic.
I like the idea of the library parking lot on Cincinnati, because there's people all around. I mean, it really, really would be a community solar, you know, if we could let those people in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And would you, if you did something like that, would you limit it to a certain geographic area, or would all users in the city?
Well, the electric company typically has regulations on how they let you roll that program out. So I mean, we'd have to work within their confines. From what I understand, the idea is you want to keep it as close as possible. So it wouldn't be like Don Heist out past the lake, you know, buying power from behind the library probably, but you know, essentially you start close, and if people aren't participating, my understanding is you can continue to branch out, but they want you to start as close as possible, from what I understand.
Yeah. Well, that would be great to include in that community energy planning grant.
So, excuse me, Ryan, would the high school, I mean, that's too far out then. The high school wouldn't be part of this?
The high school did their own solar project
Okay.
fairly recently. They got a pretty intensive solar setup. So my guess is that they've used up all of their net metering capacity through that project.
Okay.
I'm sure the developer wouldn't have left anything, you know.
Yes,
sure
we had. We made them give us more on top of that.
Yeah, there you go.
It was an Atlantic City Electric night.
I missed what you said.
I'm going to mute and cut off video just to relocate, but I'm still here.
Okay. All right, so I'm jumping around on the agenda. I hope I'm getting through everything. Let me just double check. We did that. Back to the certification, we did get the bronze certification award last week, and we also got a collaboration award for the film that Steve Fiedler did about all the towns along the Mullica River. So, and that was a big award. I mean, they give out maybe 100 certifications, but they only give out 4 or 5 awards during the League of Municipalities luncheon. So, I think Mayor Ras Baraka, he got an award, and Orsted got an award for their solar. And I think maybe one municipality that got like a zillion points, gold certification, they, at Woodbridge, I think it was, they got an award, and then it was us. So South Jersey was really represented at that. And there's about, how many people you think were there, Hazel? 1,000?
Oh, couple hundred easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a couple hundred easy.
Because they must have had about 30, 40 tables set up. So you figure 10 people per table. It was a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, and we got the write-up in the brochure and the magazine and all. We got on stage. I think I posted the picture. It was really, really nice to be recognized. Although, Hazel did most of the work on that because she was the one who was interviewed about the Mullica River. And who else from Egg Harbor City was interviewed? It's a good film.
I think Mark Maxwell.
Oh, he's still around then?
Mark Maxwell.
Or more. Well, so that was very nice. And they're having an event. Where did I print it out? Oh, they're conducting a hub event. I think it's December 15th, where they want you to watch the video, and then they're going to have a Zoom meeting and answer questions about the video. And it's a really good video. It's long, it's 85 minutes, but it's worth watching because there's so much history. And they talked about Atlantic City and the projects they're doing there and Back Bay flooding, and it's a really good video. So you should really go onto YouTube and type in Friends Along the Mullica and watch that video. It's worth watching. And his brother did a really, really good job filming it. And another friend of mine helped provide some video. They went out on a kayak on the river, and it's a lot about fishing and what's available in the river and the trash that we deal with over at Clark's Landing, things like that. So it's a really good video. So
check it out. You said December? Did you say?
Yeah, December 15th, I think. I'll put the flyer on Facebook. Okay. Let me see where it is here. Let me just double check my email. Give you the correct date.
Okay.
Here it is. Friends Along the Mullica. It's Thursday, December 9th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
It's a hub event, so all of the South Jersey or Atlantic and Cape May County green teams will be watching it and viewing it. So I'll post this on our Facebook page.
Cool.
So you know, that's the date of that. Here. All right, and then we talked about the bag giveaway. We're going to do that tomorrow. Steve and Kim are going to help out. And we also have another campaign that is associated with the bag ban. The bag ban goes into effect, I think, in February 22, but they've already instituted the skip the straw ban, where, in other words, you go into a restaurant, they can only give you a straw if you ask for one. And hopefully the restaurants will be given paper straws instead of plastic straws. So I'm working with Jody to try to find some kind of giveaway that we could get regarding straws. And what I'd like to do is have all the green team members, when you go out, scope it out, see if they give you a straw when you order a cocktail. And then if they do, then inform the bartender, you're not supposed to do that. Maybe we could give them, like, they make straws out of bamboo paper, all kinds of things right now. So share that kind of information with the restaurants and businesses in town, so to give them a little bit of encouragement to support this straw ban too, because they're probably the worst culprit. I mean, when you look at when they do beach cleanups and stuff, it's majority of what they find are straws, and they're the most harmful to marine life because they get stuck in their noses and the sea turtles and things. I don't know if you've seen those, photos of sea turtles with straws stuck up their nose that, it kills them and they can't eat, and they wind up starving to death. So we'll have more about that. I saw they have these little keychains giveaways. It's a keychain. When you unscrew it, it opens up into a straw.
Oh, cool.
So that you could take it with you. It could be on your keychain. And if there's no straw around or at the bar, you just pull out your own little telescoping straw. I thought that might be a good giveaway. So we'll try to get some of them. We have no money, so we're going to have to ask for Jody to see if there's any money in the Clean Communities Fund to buy some of these things, maybe $100 or $200. So we'll see what we can do. But I wanted to make everybody aware of it now, because if you go out to dinner or whatever and you see it, you got to be advocates for the law. I mean, it is the law. So
It is the law. It is the law. No straws.
All right. So I just wanted to review this section 4 or 6, I'm sorry, on the agenda, and give you guys an update on what's happened with our actions that we had planned. There are 4 actions that we submitted for points, but they sent us back a request for more information. So we didn't want to, we're like exhausted by the time November came around. So we're going to work on getting the state the information they want on these particular projects. We need a checklist for the community gardens that, what's her name does? Community education and outreach. I've been working on that, and I need one more outreach thing. Maybe we could do it with the straws, or we did the bags already. Maybe we could do it with the straws if we get that giveaway. We have to supply more update information for anti-idling enforcement, which is paperwork at the police department. And there's a bicycle and pedestrian when they're going to be building a bike path out to the lake. So when we get that information, we'll just input it and mark it as complete, like I said. And then the next cycle, when we have to submit, we just hit submit our application, and it's already done. And then the incomplete items that we need to work on, which can be our goals for 22, is to finish our pet parenting program. We started, with the rabies clinic, and I kind of pumped that up a little bit, but we really want to talk to people about how to take care of their pets, and how not to put dog waste in areas where they'll get into the stormwater system and things like that. So I do have a veterinarian that is willing to do a Zoom meeting, so that could be one of the actions. And I think one of the councilmen who's affiliated with the Atlantic County Humane Society said at one point that he would like to do a chipping clinic here, where people would pay a nominal fee to get their pet chipped. And it's just an insert of, I guess, a little gun or whatever into the skin of the animal. The mayor's wellness campaign, which is on here, is kind of in the works. This is something that the Public Works Department will do. I don't know if I sent that with the packet of information today, but it's a little map of, I think, Claudius and Camp Street, east to west. And we're just going to mark the roadway every quarter mile so that people who are runners or walkers, they can use this loop that goes from one end of the city to the other.
Great.
And there's an alternate route that goes over the footbridge that was built years ago near the schools. And so marking the roadway and encouraging an east-west running, walking route is part of the mayor's wellness campaign. So we're working on that. I did send the route to the Public Works Department, and it depends on their time when they'll get to actually mark it out. But right now they're picking up leaves, so I think they're doing their final round of leaves. So if you have leaves in front of your house, get them to the curb. Buffalo Avenue starts next week, Steve. So
All right.
it's like my third rake
Yeah, I know.
of my neighbors' leaves.
Exactly.
And then the biggie that is on this list is the tree. We need a tree protection ordinance, and I think we need to get the council to actually pass an ordinance protecting our trees. Like, in other words, nobody could take down the tree unless they get a permit. They would have to file at City Hall to remove a tree, things like that. Encourage the tree plantings and et cetera. So that's a biggie that we could work on in 22 if we could get the council to. I've asked several times and was promised that the ordinance committee would look at it, and I never heard from the ordinance committee. So, and then two other little things, upcoming events. I'm working to try to set up a Atlantic Cape Hub green drinks event at maybe at Renault Winery, where we'll just go out in the cold, get bundled up and go sit around they got fire pits and things like that out there, and keep on Facebook. And if we decide to do that, if I'm able to get that set up. And on December 8th, the schools are having something called Festival of Hope. Festival of Hope, it's like a resource fair. They did it before, and the green team went and gave out bags and information about lead in the water and lead in their home, things like. So if anybody's available on that date to set everything up and do it, I have to work that night, so I can't do it. But if anybody's interested in doing it, we could distribute those bags, and we got plenty of literature that we can supply, and the information about the trees. There's a lot we can give out. We have a table cover that says Sustainable Jersey on it to make the table look pretty. So if anybody's interested, please let me know, and we can work on that. It's next week. It's only 2 weeks away, I think. But
What night was that again?
it's a December 8th. I don't know what, I think it's
a Wednesday.
is it a Wednesday? Is that the same as the other one?
I don't
Yeah,
think.
that's the same night as that other event. Oh, well.
The December 9th was the Friends Along the Mullica was December 9th, I believe you had said.
Okay, so this is Wednesday, the day before.
Right.
Okay. All right, I'm working that night, so I can't do it. All right, and then I wanted to have a discussion and hear from the Green Team people here about the proposed redevelopment of City Lake Park. I don't know if you're all aware of it, but the city, someone has approached the city to build a 70,000 square foot warehouse inside the triangle or the diamond that is deed restricted as a park. I personally, I'm not in favor of it, but I wanted to hear from the Green Team here to see if you think that we should send a letter or appear at a meeting to discuss it. I want to hear from you guys. I don't want my opinion to be, put forth from the Green Team. It's got to come from the members. I personally am dead set against it, and I've been going to the meetings and trying to talk them out of it, but I don't know if that's going to work without like 1,000 people showing up. So
At the risk of saying too much on what the plans are, Tackle Direct did approach the city a while ago. They did prepare a concept plan just to sort of show, what they have in mind. they didn't want to just have a warehouse. They weren't planning on building just a giant delivery warehouse. They wanted to move their entire operation to that area. So it would be offices, a retail store, and warehousing. And because it's tackledirect.com is the vast majority of their business, but they sort of view themselves as a destination store. They bring people in from Washington, D.C., from New York. People come to their store, spend considerable amount of money, and then usually go stay at the casinos, and or go fishing out of that area there or down by Cape May. So they, that was what their operation was. In meeting with the owner of Tackle Direct, he said, look, I want to be out here because this is what we are. This is what our product is. We're, a nature-based business. They wanted to build one of their concept plan shows an artificial lake that they intended to stock. He talked about sort of partnering with Boy Scouts or whatever other organizations to bring people in and, get people fishing. So that was the flavor of their presentation, and some of the pushback and some of the discussion sort of centered around like go to the industrial park. The site that they're proposing is 48 acres, and again, it's all encompassing. It's not just a warehouse. By comparison, like 48 acres is like 3/4 of the industrial park. So there's that area that it's just not available anywhere else in town, certainly. But Mr. Gill, he wanted to be there. Were there other alternatives potentially, but he wanted to be by the lake. So that's sort of how we landed there. So I just
Is
wanted
that
to.
area protected?
What's that?
Is that area protected?
Absolutely. Yes, it is.
It's the parcel is deed restricted in the deed that was given to the city back in 1872, I think it was. Sarah Richards Colwell, the widow of Stephen Colwell, who was a wealthy Philadelphia land baron, deeded the land to the city, and it was deed restricted where the public parks would be, where the marketplaces would be, where the homes would be, and so forth. One of the things that they did in that deed was to cut out the Bremen Avenue side and what's the other street? Darmstadt, or there were garden lots, those lots, or they have no terraces behind the houses. So they're like extra big lots, and they were supposed to be the farms of the city where, and those people who own those little farms would bring their produce to Lincoln Park, which was supposed to be a marketplace. And that's where they would sell their produce and so forth. So the Germans, when they came here, they had a plan for the city. It was never really achieved because they wanted a city built all the way out to the river. Of course, we got what we got, which was the main part of the city, and all that other area, is 50 by 75 foot lots that can't be built on. And years ago, the city had to get all those little teeny tiny lots to come up with a parcel for Egg Harbor North and the high school. So, we saw what's out there, a clear cut, built the high school, clear cut, built the houses, and then it just died. No other houses are being built right now. So, I need to know from the group if it's something you think the green team should tackle in opposition or support, either way. So I need to hear from you guys.
Well, I just had a
It seems
question.
that-
We could do nothing. Not doing nothing is an option.
Right.
I just had a question for Ryan. Ryan, the tract that's out across from the cemetery, how many acres is that?
The tower site,
Yes.
The tower site, I think in all of the upland area is like 36 acres. The whole thing is almost 100 acres, but most of it is wetlands buffers. And 6 of those acres are a former landfill. So they are complicated.
Okay.
You could build on top of a landfill, couldn't you?
Anything you do there needs a landfill disruption permit, and that landfill technically is not closed. So it's a big unknown. It's sort of Pandora's box until you get the details sorted out. When
What
people
about
ask
the
me
old
like how much it
landfill
costs to close a landfill?
on
Oh, yeah.
Belvedere near the industrial park?
Yeah, so that one too. That one's sitting, it's not closed. We did a closure plan, we being Remington Vernick, in like the 90s, but it
Mhm.
was never finalized, I guess, at the DEP side. So that one is technically not closed either. And when people ask me how much it's going to cost to close them, I say, look, the honest answer is somewhere between $100,000 and $2 million, because it depends what you turn up and what the groundwater results are and what the final closure plan is. If you can just do 2 feet of clean fill and walk away and just monitor, then it's relatively easy. But there's no way to know that until you go through a pretty extensive testing protocol, and you have to prepare a whole bunch of documentation to submit to DEP for review. And things are 7 or 8 years ago now. They passed legislation which changed things. Instead of having a case manager at DEP who sort of dictates everything, cases are now managed by an LSRP, a licensed site remediation professional. So essentially you do everything, and then you submit it and they just concur or tell you have to do something different. It used to be that they would figure everything out and tell you what to do. But the state sort of shed that liability and that responsibility years ago.
Boy, that's great.
Well, it kind of makes sense, because I think the state looked at it as, why are we the ones who developing these plans? Because when things go wrong, we're the ones responsible. So they sort of kicked it onto professionals and said, well, you guys figure it out and you take responsibility for it. And we'll just say, yes, we think that's a reasonable path, or no, you're way off base. You got to do something different.
When you did the closure plan, what did it say?
The one for Antwerp, I believe, was 2 feet of clean fill and monitoring.
And just monitor.
We never prepared a closure plan for the one over where the tower site is.
Right. But they did studies
I
there
would
already,
like-
didn't they?
Can I speak a minute? When
Yes.
I was on city council, it's Hazel. When I was on city council, I do believe that they said the dump area was totally cleaned out and that was okay. However, if you look at that site, it is not flat ground. It is on a hill and it goes into all wetlands. So I don't see how anybody could put anything in there. And personally, I live down on Hamburg Avenue and I don't want to see it. It's just, that site is very special and I don't think it should be developed for something like this. And I've been at the meetings. There are so many places in this town, which I said at the meeting, that could be available for this kind of project, that we do not need to go and disrupt our beautiful Pinelands areas. We've got places
agree.
right here in the Whitehorse Pike that look like crap, that if we would just develop those, these
Yeah.
people would have access to the Whitehorse Pike, to the expressway, and it would make the coming into Egg Harbor City look 100% better. And thank you, Ryan, because I love you.
No, understood. I mean, trust me,
We all love Ryan.
I don't have a dog in this race. I just try to explain
He
the
just does the work.
perspective of where we're
I
coming
know. You do your job. You do your job. I know you do.
To be frank, I mean, we've
Hazel.
looked back at the original plans and all. Egg Harbor City was envisioned as this major urban configuration all the way out to the river, and they had a
Right.
whole 2 harbors and all that. So the idea for the park was really like, let's preserve this place in the middle so that when everything's urban, we have this little park in the middle. But since then, regulations have changed tremendously. Now 9/10 or 8/10 of the town is not developable because it's wetlands and wetlands buffers. And what you're left with as areas that you could develop by the state's regulations are uplands areas, so stuff that's not in wetlands or wetlands buffers. So where those uplands are doesn't really correlate to anything they were doing in the 1870s, because they didn't even know what that was. So from the city's
Exactly.
perspective, it was,
Yeah.
all right, well, we have this pocket of upland. It happens to be in this park parcel, but there's 1,000 acres closer to the river that no one ever intended to preserve that are now going to be preserved in perpetuity. So let's, try to get this piece of upland out. We could actually allow for something to go here. And then, it's not exactly the locations that everyone was thinking, but this is what we can do now. Sorry for the kids in the background, by the way.
It's all right.
I love it. I love it.
I got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old who are playing with trucks and watching Corey Carson right next to me.
Cool. I'm a big fan of progress, and I'm all for new business in Egg Harbor City. But I just don't think tearing up land that was supposed to have been preserved is the way to go, personally.
Sure.
We have so much area that could be used for these projects. Thank you.
I agree with the White Horse Pike, being accessible and a good place. I mentioned before, the old Better Built Door Company site would be perfect.
Yes, please. Yes.
Again, get rid of the nude place, and I mean, they have a right to be there, but we need to bring in something to beautify the city, and it'd be really nice to have something at the end of the city.
So just for an idea of scale, the Better Built Door site is a little over 8 acres.
Okay.
The Acme site is like 6. Tackle Direct is talking about 48. So there is no other upland in town that is contiguous that is that big. There just isn't.
How big is the building site on Bremen?
That site's just under 8 acres as well, or maybe just over.
That's 8 acres?
Yeah.
It's got to be more than 8 acres.
No, because it's a full garden city block. It's 600 by 600. So here, I'll run the math real quick.
But I do think that their vision is to have trees and things to make it look like it's in the country and in the woods and everything, to add to their persona of what they want to present. I do believe that.
Yeah, it's 8.
It's not just the business. They want that area to look like in the wild, in the country, and this is where you're going to come and fish.
Right. He was very frank. He said, look, I don't want to be on the White Horse Pike. I don't want to be near a highway. He said, the whole point of this is we're an outdoor business. I want to be in the outdoors. So that was his logic. I want to build somewhere in the woods. In an Egg Harbor City, that's it. That was the motivation. That's how we ended there.
And how did he come to Egg Harbor City?
So I can't recall what the legislation was called, but in 2017, I think.
Oh, okay.
The federal designation for there's tax advantages where you can reinvest and delay capital gains taxes. And that was a big motivator for them. And
capital gains is when you sell something and you get the profit.
Correct. So they would be selling something else and in reinvesting here. And essentially they would sell that opportunity, I guess, to other investors, because if you reinvest in the opportunity zones, that's what it is. If you reinvest sale what otherwise would be capital gains into opportunity zones, you can delay and potentially avoid capital gains taxes on that money if you keep it there for certain periods of time. It was like 7 to 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
So that was part of how he envisioned being able to finance the project. And
that was so. Is that program going to go away? Because that was something Donald Trump did when he first became president.
I haven't seen any indications that it's going away. We haven't heard any grumblings.
I wonder if the new president is supportive of that.
Well, I think it was for the zone, generally speaking, I think for the areas that were designated, it was fairly popular. So I don't think there's a huge appetite to pull it away from them.
All right. So
I agree with you and Steve as far as doing things on the White Horse Pike, but I also agree with Ryan. It's 48. They want 48 acres and there's nowhere. I was checking it out with my husband. He has a thing for hunting and we were checking out all the sites, how big they are. And like Ryan said, out at the industrial park, the most we could even try to gather together was 15 acres. And, so I can't imagine that there's any place other than what I had mentioned, the old dump or the tower site or for this company. And again, with Hazel, they had said, didn't they say, Nanette, you were at the planning board meeting. Didn't they say that they will have complete control over how they do everything, how it looks and all of that? And so that
Yeah,
would
they
be
did say that.
trees and everything that Hazel, was
Yes,
saying.
they
as well.
did say that.
And I
And
think that's very important if it does go through.
yeah, but
extremely
their
important.
control, they might say, Ryan might say, you need this, you need to have that. Da, da, da. That's the kind of control you're talking about. Look at all the other redevelopment projects where they have control. For instance, the Acme site. What kind of control does the city have over that?
So he's only allowed to build certain things financially.
He's not done anything.
That's financially, he can't do anything. That's his biggest holdup. He's
Well,
got bigger
see, that's
things.
part of the redevelopment process that never gets done right. They never sit down, and I don't know if they did it with Mr. Gill but where's your money? Show me how much money you have and how much you're willing to invest. Show me that the actual money exists in your bank accounts. The city never does that. And they give these redevelopment, it's a very powerful thing to have a property in a redevelopment area and have a plan. And those people pretty much do whatever the hell they want. And the city has no control over it. There is no control. They only have control over what they would like to have. But
I feel
once they own it,
I can tell you the financials, we do review financials for a lot of properties or a lot of redevelopment projects. You don't really hear about it because it's all private and confidential stuff that doesn't get shared with the public. But we do get financials. For that particular one, the Acme site, that gentleman bought the property outright first, and then he pursued a redevelopment plan. So there was nothing, essentially, well, you own the lot. If you want to play for the redevelopment plan, okay. Because, he owns it free and clear. So there was no, it's not like it was a city-owned parcel where the city wanted to make sure someone could go through it. They owned it. So essentially, we were just altering the zoning to fit a use that he was proposing that the city accepted. So that one in particular, sort of looks like a black eye, but there was no financials on that one. But that was, like I said, that was a unique situation. So that's why there was not.
okay.
Brian, with that in mind, moving forward, is there any way, okay, he owned the land and you had to switch the zoning up a little for him. Is there any way that he can have some skin in the game by having to put some money down, that if things do not go through, then they, he would lose this, something to that effect. I think there should be some, okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
He did post money to, get the redevelopment plan together. He frankly hasn't gotten to the point yet where he would post a bond for the development portion. Generally speaking, before you're allowed to begin the site development, you have to post a performance bond. And then at the completion of the work, you post a maintenance bond. And those bonds do exactly that. They guarantee that you don't rip everything up and then, it's all left and there's, a giant hole there. With this situation, it was an existing site.
Right.
So he hasn't disturbed it yet. So there's nothing to require a bond for because he hasn't done anything. He's been working on the building, but we can't require bonding for building work. You can only require building or bonding for site improvements. So again, that one kind of a black eye, but unique circumstance.
I'm sure.
I can tell you.
Ryan, let me interrupt.
Ryan,
it's
in or out of a
Ryan.
redevelopment zone would still have to post those bonds.
Yes, even a redevelopment bond, you still post those bonds. Wawa has their bonds posted right now. So
They did post them, Ryan.
Listen,
yeah,
this is Hazel, and I want to say, I was on city council when the people from that Acme site came there and wanted to purchase it. I've told this to so many people. All they ever wanted was an address. They wanted to go into Mullica Township. There was no water and sewer. They needed water and sewer. By the New Jersey told them they had to have that. So they took this site and they said, the state said they had to have 100 offices for what they were doing and cafeteria and everything. And they said, basically, all we want is an address so that we can sell cars online. And I said, you mean to tell me I said this to their attorney, you will have 100 offices in this building and never have that many people there? And the attorney said to me, maybe a man and several girls once in a while, wink, wink. So
Wow.
all they wanted was an address with water and sewer so they could sell things online. They have
Correct.
no intentions of ever developing that property.
Yeah, well, it was
I was there.
the offices are not open. It was intended as a used auto dealer mall, and the applicant was very frank.
Exactly, but online.
Right. So he said that the New Jersey laws are very lax for used auto dealers. The one thing that they require is a 72 square foot office with a desk, a lamp, someone to receive the mail, and something else. I think it was a safe or something.
Yes,
He said
and
typically
water and sewer.
out of state, well, right, because you technically have to have that capacity to have that number of offices. So you, you establish 100 and something offices, you sell an address to people out of state so that they can be licensed New
Yes.
Jersey auto dealers. They also needed 1 parking space for themselves and 2 parking spaces for vehicles, presumably in their possession.
Exactly.
He pretty much told us they would never be occupied. It was just somewhere for these people to hang their license and say, look, I have an office in New Jersey. So, I mean, that's exactly what that proposal was.
Exactly.
So that's my point about the control issue. It's like they really can't control what a
well,
developer
let me
does. You know,
take
you
a step back.
hit him over the head with a hammer early on.
Well, that one was privately owned. He already owned that parcel.
Yeah.
When the city owns the parcel at the beginning of the process, things are very different.
Anybody else have anything to say about the Cedar Lake?
Well, for Cedar Creek and some of my group, I would say that they're probably a little more for it, believe it or not. Only because I have worked with Tackle Direct. They're still a fairly young, up and coming tackle business, fishery, wildlife, and we've only had positive experiences. They're doing a lot for the youth organizations in the fishing industry. They've been more than generous to start clubs, work with the state, hooked on fishing, not on drugs. Obviously, you never know what's in some businessman's head or woman's head down the road, but I think there's worse businesses that could come into Egg Harbor City.
I have no problem with the business. I think it's a wonderful business.
Right.
And I think the location, I see what they're going for in terms of they're trying to create a destination, a lot like Bass Pro Shops have done throughout the country, with the big fish tanks and like I said, they're an attraction themselves. You go hang out there, you see Santa there, and then you spend some money, yes, in the area. I think that's what they're trying to do. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm totally against that, knowing some of the things, their current business practices.
Ryan, let me ask you a question about the 70 acre zone, which is beyond the lake? North of the lake? Is he there? He must have stepped
Sorry,
away.
can you repeat that? Yeah, I had to put the next episode of Corey Carson
on. The area north of the lake, like beyond the Bungalow Inn, going out to the river.
So
that area is like that area is all cut up in little teeny tiny lots too.
So there's a portion of it that's within the city lake park. And then there's another portion which is a bunch of smaller lots. 10 or 15 years ago, Tim Mickle worked on a proposal for the city to do a clustered housing development of what was envisioned as like very high-end homes in the R20F zone. So you would have needed about 200 acres to build 10 homes. And the proposal involved artificial lakes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember all that.
But in our discussions with the Pinelands Commission, they have essentially said, look, we're never going to let you extend the sewer service area past the lake. So the density of what you could build there, it'll never be in the Pinelands town area. So the density of what you'll build there will always be on septic. It will always be forested area. So you're going to be 20 plus acres just to build a house. So you can't really do anything with any density or scale out past the lake.
And there's no uplands that would encompass 40 some acres that you would want, that they could do the same process on that land instead of taking away a city park.
So the only thing that you could do out there anything you would do would have to involve septic. So you couldn't really build at that same scale. All right, buddy. Well, I'm gonna need like 30 seconds. One push the other.
Good.
Dad.
Well, don't touch it.
What is it?
It's dry ice.
Why?
I had something shipped on dry ice and
Oh.
turn the water on it.
I'm like
See what
looking at it
happens.
like,
my boss gave me a Gold Belly gift certificate last year for $150. And I'm like, what?
Cool.
I went on there and everything is like ridiculously expensive.
Oh,
So I ordered jalapenos. Oh, look at this little guy. Jalapenos stuffed with shrimp and crab meat from
Wow.
New Orleans. And
really?
it was like $60 for like 20 stuffed peppers. So it came in this box with dry ice. And I'm like, what do you do with dry ice? How do you get rid of it? So I put it in the sink and I turned the water on thinking it'll melt. And my whole kitchen was filled with smoke. I felt like I was in a disco from the 1980s.
How you get rid of it?
Yeah. All right. So if everybody has spoken on this issue, I just wanted to say my piece about how I feel about it. My personal opinion is I would love to have Tackle Direct come here in the setting that they want, just not in that diamond.
Right.
Mainly because of the historical perspective that lake has for generations. I mean, our kids have nothing. Our kids that grow up in the city have nothing. They have no recreation center, nothing like that. All they have is the ability to go to the lake and hang out in the summer. And my son did it I spent 10 years at the lake, 2-3 days a week, entertaining my son when he was little. When he got older, he worked at the lake. He was a lifeguard for several years.
Mhm.
So I think the historical perspective that lake provides for the city, and it is historic. There were water wheels out there. I mean, there's that Sybil Schaller grave out there. I know it's real close to the lake, and this guy's thinking I'm going to be farther out, but I don't know. I don't think that we should give away any of our park anywhere, any park in the city. That, someday that the Germans' vision for the city might come true, and, Egg Harbor North gets developed like it was supposed to. And now we have a lot of kids in town close to the lake. Plus, they're building that bike path that, Marie Johns was on council for how many years? Every year she would apply for a grant for a bike path and never got it. Finally got it. And it's a federal project. It's going to take forever, but we're going to have a bike path going out to the lake.
Awesome.
So our kids are going to be using that lake even more than they do now, with and without their parents. So I think, I would love to have Tackle Direct here, but just not inside that diamond.
I agree.
The other issues that we have on the pike with people who don't pay their taxes and own big parcels of land, and the Acme site and the Better Door site, those, to me, when you talk about establishing a redevelopment area, that should come from the city council or, the people who live here, that we want this area developed. Let's create a redevelopment plan for that area. Let's spend the money and hire an engineer or whatever to come up with the plan. And then you take that plan and you market it to developers to come in and do what you want. To me, that's what these redevelopment plans, how they should work. The way they have worked since they've been instituted is a developer comes to the city and the city agrees, yeah, we want this type of business here. And then they go through this 2-year, 3-year process to create the plan, but it's pretty much already a done deal. It's just they have to do all these studies and come up, then you got to do with the planning, goes back to the planning board, and then it goes to the city council. And every step along the way, there should be a public hearing to advance it. I mean, to me, if this guy, and the other thing that bothers me about it is that he's paying for all these studies. So it's not really objective. It's let's give this guy what he wants. That's what the redevelopment thing is all about to me. And then when it's done, he gets a tax incentive, which I have no problem with tax incentives and abatements. I mean, I wish they would reinstate the abatement for Egg Harbor North, because that was a pretty successful redevelopment project. And actually houses were going up that helped reduce our taxes. Yeah. And so, you know, I have opinions and I've seen it done in other towns, and I don't think we have our act together with the way we conduct these redevelopments. So to me, taking away a city park from future generations is just not, I don't think I'll ever approve that. You know, if anything, we need more recreation and more open space. And then there's the issue with the trees that I get criticized for, because, you know, somebody told me that I only like certain trees, that I only want certain trees not to be torn down, because I supported, you know, the Egg Harbor North project. Mm-hmm. Those trees, it's okay to take them down, but the trees across the street in the park, you can't take down. So I get criticized for that kind of stuff. So I basically just wanted to hear from our guys who are concerned about the environment to see if you have an objection to doing this, and if you want to do like a letter or something like that to send to the council objecting to it. It's my understanding that anybody who objects to any portion of the redevelopment, then the city is required to inform those people anytime something happens with the redevelopment plan. So it would enable us to be, you know, to get notified when they're going to have meetings and things like that. So, or, you know, they're going to take action on something. So that's just my opinion. I will voice my opinion at these meetings that they have, but I just wanted to know if you want me to represent the green team and, you know, make a special statement from the team or something like that. So I don't know what to do. I mean, it seems like everybody's against it except for one person, but there's only how many of us here? And Ryan don't count.
I'm not a voting member. That's correct.
Yeah, he's not voting. What do you think? Do you want to take a vote on this?
I think a letter is fine.
A letter?
Yes.
Send a letter to the city council stating what?
Stating that we're all for progress, but just not there. I mean, you said it very well, you know.
Smoke.
What was that?
Somebody said something. All right, so are we going to all agree that we should send this letter? Anybody object to that?
Do we need to include all the other, anybody else that's part of the team as well to get their opinion?
I will send an email out to the whole team and say that the people who attended this meeting agreed that we should send a letter objecting to redevelopment in City Lake Park and to concentrate on other areas along the pike, that type of thing. Is that what you want to put in here?
That would be
Danette,
me.
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, I agree with keeping everyone abreast of what's going on here. But objecting to it completely, I'm not 100% sure I agree with that. I was looking for other places to put this business.
Mhm.
I think we should be, I agree with Ryan with the Acme site, with if they bought the property, it's different than if we are giving them the property. We should be able to follow every step of the way. We should say there has to be this amount of trees left on the property. You have to have the building this way, and that sort of thing. I also agree with the girl from the high school with the children. You said that that the lake is something for the children. Well, if this gentleman is doing this sort of thing, and it sounds like he is at this point, since, excuse me, what is your name?
Erin.
Erin. And you know for a fact that they have been doing this. This isn't just, they didn't just start doing this, Erin. They've been doing this.
No, they've been doing this. They've been very supportive. And from our talks with Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs with the state, they're looking to be more involved financially as well.
So
And
to
this
me,
is Tackle Direct.
Tackle Direct.
And what exactly do they do?
So they are looking to kind of be one of the big state sponsors for Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs, which is currently all funded through money that's been seized from drug deals and things like
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
law enforcement seizures. And they want to start a bigger program of fishing and youth fishing clubs that you see a lot out in other states that we don't really have strong here.
Mhm.
They've already started that with a lot of youth bass fishing throughout the country. And with a home base here in New Jersey, sorry, my kid is playing games in the background if you hear it. They are really starting to push more of that and do more than they already have. But their name is all over a lot of the youth fishing stuff already.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's good to hear.
and I would think if they are in Egg Harbor City, we can also stipulate that our children, could take, precedence, and they could make sure that our children here in Egg Harbor City are a big part of this, that they include them or they have projects or something. We can do that as well, I would think. Because to me, it sounds, like I said, I would prefer to have them in another area if we could do that. But if we can't, it doesn't sound like it's a terrible thing, in my opinion. But that's just me. So, I mean, everyone do whatever do what you were going to do, but that's my opinion on this.
All right. Well, I'll try to, incorporate everybody's ideas into a letter. There's going to be, where's my phone? The city council set a meeting. I can't see, it's so tiny.
Wednesday, the 15th, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, special meeting for Wednesday, the 15th.
And it says action will be taken. Do you know what the action is that they're going to take?
I think they have it as indicated as action may be taken.
Yeah. Well, what would be the next action that they would have to take?
Well, the action would be potentially to rescind the previous vote.
Oh, okay.
As
So
per your
people-
request at the end of the last meeting.
Okay, so people should attend this meeting then. Because I think that they can't do that anymore. They can't just slide stuff through. I mean, I know it's been done for years, but this is too important to do that with. There has to be notice to the public that it's got to be on an agenda. I
Right.
mean, it's just not right to pass these things lightly. I mean, they're talking about taking parklands away from the citizens. So, I mean, you really got to do everything out in the open
I
and
agree
Right.
with you, Nanette.
give
I
people an opportunity to speak
So-
on it.
I'll take some of the blame for that. To be honest with you, like I said, we had the meeting on Tuesday, so we didn't have a vote. We didn't feel it was appropriate to put it on the agenda because we didn't know how they were going to vote, and it was a 5-4 split. So, there was obviously no guarantees. So I brought it up to council because my belief was that everyone was familiar with it because they had previously referred it to the planning board. And frankly, that was a fairly administrative step in that nothing would proceed from there, with the exception of trying to go through and do the condemnation portion. There would be no property would be deeded to anyone else. Nothing would be turned over to anybody. There would be no change of ownership or rights or anything as far as the city was concerned at that step. So I sort of viewed that as an administrative step, to be frank with you. Once the recommendation had been made back from the board, but.
Right.
So
but I did feel cheated out of and speaking up against it another time, and it was too late for me to, and I have to apologize to everybody at that meeting because I got really upset that was done that way,
Yeah, I certainly was not intending to cause controversy. I just, like I said, sort of viewed it as the next administrative step. It was trying to move things along, but.
Yeah. So what is the next step now? Because they accepted that review, what do you call that? What was it?
The study of that the area was in need of redevelopment.
Right. So because they accepted that, what happens next? I mean, does that automatically give the tackle direct the ability to start a plan?
No. So the city declaring that parcel and area in need of redevelopment allows the city to start to take administrative steps to develop a plan of action of what steps would be needed in order to facilitate whatever it is that the city council is trying to do. In this case, take a portion of the property out and work with Tackle Direct on it. The first and most time-consuming step is going to be to pinpoint how to lift the deed restriction that is there. Once the city does that, that to me is the point at which you would want to come out and sort of have your voice heard, because everything up to that point is an administrative step, and the city still has full ownership of and control of the property, and it's not promised to anyone at that point. Not until the city were to condemn the property, the deed restriction would be lifted, could the city even be in a position to begin to formally negotiate with anyone for a piece of the land. So, it's like I said, there's sort of a lot of things that need to be worked through just to even get to that point. And at that point, that's when you'd be, voicing objections against specifically deeding over a portion of that property to a private developer. Right now, whether the city condemns the property to clear the title, in the absence of a redeveloper here, is sort of an administrative exercise. It would just be to clean title. Obviously, there's a secondary motive in that somebody wants a portion of it, but whether there's somebody here that wants it or not, clearing the title of that property, I think, would benefit the city, because it would clear a lot of things up that are sort of ambiguous right now. There's a 99-year lease for a building that's there. I mean, that, and the city has 3 sublots that it has created that do not exist on the tax map, but have property record cards. So what are they?
Well, are they the little buildings? Or are they the homes that are on the other side of the road?
The homes are private properties. It's the pavilion, a log cabin, and I'm trying to think of the other one's called.
Bungalow?
Yeah, the Bungalow Inn. It appears that those are what the descriptions are on those property record cards. But there's no meets and bounds. There's no description of where they are, exactly what they are. So,
well, the Bungalow Inn was a hotel for recreation.
Trust me, I know where they are, but my point is, there's no from 10 feet from the face of the building, that's part of this lease. There's no clear indication of what these things are and what the bounds would be. And frankly, whether, given that the deed is still restricted for recreation only and public use, that building was leased to someone for 99 years for commercial purposes. Is that, something that is that lease valid?
Well, the guys had to go somewhere all those years. They
Trust me,
went out
I hear
into
you.
the
But I mean,
woods.
there's a lot of complicated issues from that restriction that, in the absence of any redevelopment project, would benefit the city to have all of that stuff cleaned up. That's really.
And I was at the meeting writing, when I covered Egg Harbor City, when the Red Men were in that building,
Mhm.
and they were, conducting their meetings there. I think it was the Red Men. And they had a public bidding, and they did not show up for the public auction to lease the property. And I was like, I'm a supporter of these local community groups. And I'm like, where the hell are these guys? They didn't show up. And Joe Mills walked in and got it for a song.
Yep.
And that's how Renault took ownership of that parcel, or a lease of that part of the property.
Right.
So that was devastating at that meeting. That was one of these like horrible things that happens that you have no control over. And to sit there as a reporter and not be able, I actually said, stand up and bid on it. I had no money. And I was like, you should bid on it so they, you could give it to them. And because it was horrible. That was a horrible situation to be in, and not, but now I'm not a writer anymore for Egg Harbor City, so I could say whatever the hell I want. All right, so I'll get a letter out and send it to everybody, and we could work on it together and make it a collaborative thing, and maybe we could send it in advance of that meeting in December, so that because when I get up to speak, I want to speak for myself. I don't want to speak for the green team. If somebody else wants to come and read the letter or whatever, that would be helpful. But I'm kind of torn, we have to care about the environment and tearing down trees for industry, but we're also desperate for ratables. And that's part of the scary part about redevelopment, is that we always approach this with desperation, that, oh, don't let these people go. They want to invest in our city. But, I think maybe an attitude adjustment on the part of the city might be good, that, well, wait a minute, you can't just come in here and do whatever you want. That type of attitude, instead of, yeah, whatever you want.
Right.
So
I agree, excuse me, I agree with you, but if I didn't hear from Erin and she has had dealings with them before, it's not that they're a flyby like the people in the Acme site or at the Acme site. I'm hoping, and I'm more than hoping, they've been established in EHT for quite some time. So I guess their whole objective is to sell, like Ryan had said, to sell that property, not pay the taxes on it, and come to a town, which, again, I don't know if I got this right, but is it because we are
Opportunity zone.
Okay, because we're an opportunity zone, that's why they're coming here. So they don't have that many places, I guess, that they can go to. So yes, I feel we could really set some boundaries as to what they do. If indeed they, if it's passed, I think that's where we really, really should step up if it does get passed.
All right. Well, that's going to be a hard letter to write.
Oh, I'm sorry. All
right, I'm done. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause here?
Can I offer?
Something else real fast. It won't be long, I hope. It's Erin from Cedar Creek.
Yes.
So we have been working with Stockton. It's funny that we've talked so much about maple trees, but Stockton has a considerable grant to work on tapping our red maple trees here in South Jersey. We do have a few sugar maples, but not nearly as many as above Tom's River area and north. But the goal being that here on the Cedar Creek property, we've identified only 4 red maples that are of size to tap for their sap to then be processed and make actual maple syrup out of. But we have been looking on neighboring Egg Harbor City owned property, like across from the cemetery off of New York there. And we have found what they would consider like a sugar bush, like 5 to 10 red maples that are of considerable size for tapping. And I know it's something that, you know, us with Stockton, Cedar Creek with Stockton would be interested in putting taps in. And we wanted to start that process, maybe talking to Egg Harbor City of, you know, is that going to be allowed? I don't know if you've ever seen the taps. They're only about an inch long that you put into the red maple with a hose and a bucket that attaches to them. But it was something, you know, obviously it's not our Cedar Creek property. So we can't just do, we didn't want to be like putting something in there that stayed. We already use it for cross country. I know they run that loop there. But this would be something that we put in seasonally. So we wanted to, you know, start to get more opinions and thoughts on.
I would support that mainly because it's going to teach the kids a lot about the environment. I know some people might object to harming a tree by drilling a hole into it, but I don't think it really is that devastating to the tree. It's not going to kill the tree, right?
No, that's why they have to be a certain size. And we on the Cedar Creek property, we did plant red maples, but they're all young. They're not big enough.
Yeah, right.
Aaron,
I like the idea. And I wrote a story about a young boy from, I think it's Absecon years ago, who did his tap, and he took me, you know, through the whole thing and how they, you know, boil it down and create maple syrup. You know, so it was a really good story. And I saw Stockton was doing it too. And that's a great project there. I mean, you know, Rutgers used to have a farm at one point, but so I have no problem with that. Is that something that we would have to get permission from the city to do?
Probably.
A step we would need to take, yes.
And how do you find the maples? You just got to go walk in the woods and find them?
That is what we've done, yes. Woods, measuring the diameter.
If you could GPS those trees,
yeah.
and then we could give Ryan a list and say these are the trees that they want to tap.
Aaron, there are 2 of them in the Peace Pilgrim Park. There's a sugar maple and a red maple, and I believe they're quite large.
Actually looking to talk to you about the park as well, because I was like, I know the park has some bigger, older, and one of them is a sugar maple.
Yes, the other is red maple.
And I'll tell you, over $400,000 of their grant is on educating communities and schools and families. People are tapping their personal trees, and Stockton's providing them with the equipment, and they're providing the sap back to Stockton. Stockton's purpose, the evaporators and the systems to bring it all down. So they did about 900 trees last year. No, 90 trees. And now this year it's 900.
Wow.
So yeah, their grant totals now are close to $1 million in sugar maple syrup making and studies that go with it. Okay, what is the impact on the forest, the biodiversity, the trees? And that's a whole piece that Cedar Creek students are working with them on now.
Wow, that's great. Where's the funding coming from for that?
This was all out of the, I want to say some of it was FDA. And then another portion of it was Forestry.
Okay.
But federal government based.
All right. Well, if you could locate the trees,
That's
Yeah.
great.
you could GPS them, and then maybe we could put that in a resolution of some kind for the city to consider where these, and how long would they be activity around the tree? Is it seasonal?
Seasonal. So coming into like now, we would tap them and seasonal collect. The stand in across from the cemetery that we were looking at, we were thinking of even putting in our own grant to do a vacuum pump which means we would only use it once a week. We would go out, vacuum pump, tap, and then be done for the week, as compared to the slow gravity drip. Collects the same amount of syrup. It's just, instead of leaving buckets in the woods for a week and a half, we would just vacuum pump it, collect it, and then collect all our stuff and leave again.
And that sounds dangerous for the tree to get it sucked out that so
Not
quickly.
fast suck. It's more, it creates the vacuum effect of pressure. So instead of gravity letting it slow, it still takes the same amount. It's just over a different amount of time. And there's studies on that too. But they've really mastered, especially, Vermont and these homesteads up in the north in New England have really mastered what is that ideal pressure they don't want to damage the tree. We want to be able to keep collecting over long periods of time.
Do you sell the Do you sell the syrup commercially?
So right now, a lot of it is promotional when we take the syrup, but Stockton is looking at a commercial piece of it, because that's exactly what some of the grant is on, is can these non-traditional maples, because let's face it, they usually use sugar maples that don't grow native here, still have an economic value. Like they're doing the cost benefit analysis on, okay, well, this is what it costs us. What are we getting from it? But Stockton is actually offering like Stockton maple syrup.
Yeah. Cool.
And are they making the syrup at the college, or are they partnering with Atlantic Cape?
No, they're at the Stockton. They have all of the equipment there.
All right. So when you do yours, it would be for Cedar Creek High School.
Yeah.
So we could call it Dr. Smith's maple syrup.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it. That's a great idea. I support that. It sounds like fun. And that's a real educational thing for trees too, that we could partner on, That's good.
I am sure that we already have 15 more kids that know exactly the difference between the maples than they knew before.
Yeah.
And we'll keep as we build on kids.
Good.
Took our first group out this afternoon.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool.
All right. So what do you need from us then?
I'm just, awareness. And then we're going to, I'm going to approach the city in that next step of, okay, here's where we found them and the actual detailed procedure, which Stockton will provide me, of what we want to do there. So I just wanted you to know that's coming. I didn't want anybody to be like, what? Trees. So,
all right. Sounds
do
great.
a little more surveying too. See where else we can find.
Oh, I look forward to hearing more about it.
Thank you.
Aaron,
Yeah.
do you need anyone else to help out and to identify them? If we identify any trees, is there anywhere that could we contact you? Is there
You let me know. We do have students now going back, since we did all the IDing today, we have them going back to their own properties. Because again, it is allowed to be, it's a community effort. If you identify maples on your property, you can get a kit and you can tap them at your house.
Okay.
And you can be part of the collective to bring the sap back.
And it's just red maples? Is it any
And
kind
sugar
of maple?
maple. It's the
And
red
sugar
maples. And if you happen to have an older home, a farmstead from back in the day, they planted the sugar maples all over the place, but they're just not found in the woods here. They would have been planted by someone.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
hope that's on our approved tree list, the sugar maples. They're gorgeous trees. We have a couple on St. Louis Avenue that, people drive real slow up St. Louis Avenue in the fall so they could enjoy the tree.
If they're on your property, it kind of gives it that security, because some of the concern is if we're tapping trees in the woods and there's just this bucket there, you don't know who could go by it, what could be done. And obviously we don't want that. We are making edible product out of it. So
Right.
If it's on your property and it's your tree and you can kind of monitor it better, that's some of the benefit for us.
Cool. I love that.
Great.
All right. Well, if you need to promote it, like press release or something like that, I'd be glad to help out writing something up for you, get it to the current and the press, although they didn't publish the last one I sent them, and I'm upset about that. Especially since there's nothing in the paper. Geez, I'm writing the paper for you. Oh, cool. All right. Anybody else?
Two quick things that things I wrote down when we were talking earlier. One was your thought about the redevelopment projects and sort of approaching for a different way. I wanted to highlight one project we did do that. The city got funding from the ACIA to do the tower site redevelopment project. So the city actually proactively did the redevelopment plan, and then we advertised it through an RFP, and we got a couple of different responses. And now we're sort of with the Energime group and still trying to move that along. But I did want to point out that that sort of exactly what you were thinking, like the city doing it and moving forward with it. That's we approached that one. And then the only other thing was I was looking, we were talking about the acreage that would come out of that lake park. Since 2015, I guess we started, maybe 2016, we started deed restricting a whole bunch of wetlands and wetlands buffers out sort of past the lake. So that we've ended up restricting development rights on 188 acres since 2016. So I just wanted to.
We could probably get points for Sustainable Jersey for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that would be might as well. So, but I mean, I just wanted to sort of give an idea of the scope. We've deed restricted 4 times the acreage that Tackle Direct is talking about over the last couple of years, just not in the same place, obviously.
Okay. I'll look at the application and see if there's any actions on that. It sounds like there is, because I remember using the Ehrenhafen parcel to get points prior, like in the one, I think our first round of certification. We put in there that Ehrenhafen came in and they're protecting certain portion of lands. Was that any of their property?
Well, so I believe that the city, after they deed restricted it, turned over the management to the Ehrenhafen group.
Right. Okay. So this is additional acreage that they're managing?
Yeah, this had to do with, I don't know if you remember, we were working with Lakewood. They had projects that they needed to essentially, deed restrict wooded wetlands elsewhere in the watershed, and Egg Harbor City qualified as an offset. So they paid the city to deed restrict this area, but there's now 188 acres that will be, protected in perpetuity.
Well, now how much did the city get? Do you remember?
I want to say we got it varied by sale because there was 3 different transactions. It was between 2,000 and 3,200 an acre.
Oh. When did
Not
they
to
get that
interject,
one?
but I think Nanette, that's probably expired by now. We haven't done it in a few years.
Is that Jody?
Yeah, hi. I've been on for a while. Sorry, I joined late. I am here if you need anything.
Well, we had quite a lengthy meeting here, but we had a lot of good
Yeah,
discussion.
I heard the majority of it. I've been on since like 7 something,
Okay.
like 7:15. I heard a good portion of it. I kind of missed the beginning part, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, that was all about the tree projects and how you need help. So we got Ryan and Karen to, up to date on what the plan we want to do is, and they're going to do their thing. So.
Okay, cool.
While I got you here, Jody, we had
Yeah.
talked, did you hear the discussion about the straws?
No, I must
Okay.
have one after that.
Well, the straw thing went into effect last week, I believe. And
Okay.
We were hoping to get some kind of giveaway that we could carry when we go to restaurants to make sure that, they're aware of the straw ban. I mean, it's not a ban, but that you have to ask for a straw. And I saw something online where they have these little keychains that unscrew and it opens up into a metal straw, like a collapsible metal straw. So I was wondering if there's if we could use some Clean Communities money for that.
Probably.
Instead of getting bags, because I think we could get more bags. I think bags are going to be available through the ACUA, hopefully.
Right.
you know, if we
right.
want to give out more bags. I mean, I have two boxes of them we're going to give out tomorrow at Inkling those. So
Oh,
and I was
nice.
thinking, maybe nice to have something to hand, like the bar owner or the bartender, saying, you know, you're not supposed to give out plastic straws anymore. So how about if we give one of these to that customer and just like randomly give them to a customer at a bar or something like that and say, here, try this, just to
Right.
create more awareness of it. And I don't know and I also saw online that they're making straws, paper straws out of bamboo. So
Okay.
that instead of, you know, having to give like a reusable straw, you could give a one-time use straw, but it's made out of a renewable resource, you know, there's
Okay.
tons of bamboo in the world.
Those are nice. Right.
So. All right, and anybody else? She didn't answer that question, did she?
Me?
Yeah, is there money in the
I said,
account?
yeah. I said I think we could probably do that.
Okay, good. All right, we'll work on that then.
Yeah, send me the link for it, or you know, send me information on it.
I will.
Work on it.
All right, anyone else? Well, I really appreciate all the good comments and participating for 2 hours. So I don't have anything else to offer right now, except, you know, have a good Thanksgiving, everybody. Don't eat too much turkey.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sign off.
I'll see you
All right,
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll see you
Thanks. Have a
tomorrow.
great Thanksgiving,
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.